How is it possible that that 1,000 young girls and 1,000 young boys have been trafficked, and only one person's ever gone to prison? It's Ghislaine Maxwell, and she runs herself a minimum security prison.
And Epstein.
And Epstein, who killed himself, which I don't buy at all. Trump is mentioned more times in the Epstein files than Harry Potter is in the entire Harry Potter series. Prosecutions at this point.
Sure, other than the top two, sure.
Yeah, but they moved Ghislaine Maxwell to a minimum security prison and promised her a pardon.
Sure. I mean, she's serving a 20-year sentence, but I
She's
agree.
going to
We
get
want more
pardoned at the end.
prosecutions.
Listen,
but here's my prosecute
so you
people.
think it was
They're
a
all-
mom?
Hold on.
So wait, you think it was a mom and pop sex trafficking operation in Florida?
You're inventing a bunch of things I've never said.
I'm asking you questions that you can answer, but you're not answering them.
You made a claim. You said Trump needs to prosecute the DOJ needs, and I said, okay,
well,
who
Trump
do you want?
Is the DOJ?
Who do you want? Well, they're distinct, but
no, they're
yes,
not.
they work for the
That's
administration.
how Don Lemon got arrested on Friday. I'm sure it's because they're very separate.
You're trying to avoid the question.
It's a botched job because nobody should forget that right after the 4th of July on a Sunday night, the DOJ announced they were done with the Epstein investigation. After throughout the entire Trump campaign, they were promised to release every document to prosecute every single person that they could. They said there was nothing, that there was no files. And it took
they said no client
No,
list.
they said there was nothing. There's
they
no
never
list.
said there was no file.
Right, so let me just gather myself for a second here, because what we're about to dive into is absolutely mental. The Epstein files. You know the ones. The documents that supposedly expose the powerful, the connected, the untouchable. And guess whose name keeps popping up like a bad rash? Donald Trump. Now look, I'm not here to speculate wildly. I'm here to look at what's actually been reported, what's been documented, and ask the very simple question. Why has accountability been so elusive? Because that's what gets me. We're talking about a case that allegedly implicates some of the most powerful people on the planet. And yet, the prosecutions have been laughably limited. So today we're going through some clips together. First time, live reactions. And I want you watching alongside me because this stuff, it matters. The victims deserve better than a system that seemingly protects the privileged. If you love watching me unravel disasters like this, please click that subscribe button.
My claim here is Trump's failure to prosecute Epstein's associates reveals the rot in our federal government.
Okay.
All right.
What's your case?
All right. So look, there is a cabal of very rich and powerful individuals, and it extends beyond party politics and partisanship or anything like that. I'm sorry, what, sir?
The evil cabal is in Minnesota. So fair enough. There is an evil cabal there too. I agree.
Evil cabal everywhere, apparently. But these guys, of these rich and powerful men, think they can do anything they want with impunity, and it includes potentially Bill Clinton, most likely, based on the files. It includes Donald Trump, who's been credibly on the record from people who have signed, done interviews with the FBI on the record under threat of perjury that Donald Trump threatened a 14-year-old girl. And you've got, and look, there's a ton of Democrats, a ton of Republicans in there. And at the end of the day, nobody's been prosecuted. And even just for a second, set aside the powerful celebrities that we've seen, the powerful politicians that we've seen. How is it possible that that 1,000 young girls and 1,000 young boys have been trafficked, and only one person's ever gone to prison? It's Ghislaine Maxwell, and she runs herself a minimum security prison.
And Epstein.
And Epstein, who killed himself, which I don't buy at all. And I think that Trump is a huge part of it. Trump is mentioned more times in the Epstein files than Harry Potter is in the entire Harry Potter series. Okay? And so Donald Trump wants to look at the American people and say, I don't know Jeffrey Epstein. I had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein except he met his wife at an Epstein party. He partied with Jeffrey Epstein.
He's talked about being friends with Epstein.
He says that they cut ties.
Yeah, but he knows him. He says he knows him. He never said he doesn't know him.
They partied all over the 90s. There's a million photos.
Yeah, I'm just saying the claim you just made isn't true. You said he says he doesn't know him. He
says he doesn't know him all the time. Just the other day in the Oval Office, he was like, I don't know anything about Jeffrey Epstein. We should move on. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, there is a group of wealthy and powerful people who want to pit everybody in this room against us. They want us to hate each other so that they can get away with abusing little girls and little boys. And,
okay.
I'm sick of this shit, and I want to talk about it with you guys.
Okay, so I think that you have just accidentally undercut your whole debate premise right off the top, even without my help.
Are you going to defend what happened in the Epstein files?
I'm not. I'm going to talk about the thing that you brought up in your debate. So you said Trump's failure to prosecute Epstein's associates reveals the rot in our federal government.
Yeah.
But then
I should add, by the way, Joe Biden's failure too, because they didn't prosecute this when Biden was in office.
Sure. I'm just gonna point out, and that actually plays into it as well. I'm gonna point out you've undercut your whole debate premise because you have admitted immediately that actually the two top people in the Epstein operation, namely Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, have been prosecuted, and weirdly enough, they were arrested and charged by Donald Trump, not by Barack Obama, not by Joe Biden. It was by Trump. And so right off the bat, the premise is false. But then let's go down further, because I think a lot of people want to see more prosecutions in the Epstein case.
Or any prosecutions at this point.
Sure, other than the top two, sure.
Yeah, but they moved Ghislaine Maxwell to a minimum security prison and promised her a pardon.
Sure. I mean, she's serving a 20-year sentence, but I agree.
She's going to
we
get
want more
pardoned at the end.
prosecutions.
Listen,
but here's my question.
Show of hands. How many people think Ghislaine Maxwell's going to get pardoned at the end of Trump's term? Like, come on.
Nobody.
Really? Come on.
Nobody thinks so, of course.
She's not going to be in prison at the moment. You can pull this up.
The question then becomes, though, because, okay, we agree the premise is wrong, but the thrust is fine. We want more prosecutions. Okay, who would you prosecute and on what grounds?
Yeah, so I would start here. One, I don't believe that the DOJ has taken this case seriously at all. And just separate out the names for a second. How can they traffic 1,000 young girls and 1,000 young boys without other people who help them do that? Who help them recruit those girls, move them around?
I'm asking a direct question. Who would you prosecute?
I don't have a specific name because
there you go. That's the problem. You say we have to prosecute.
So you
people.
think it was
They're
a mom?
Hold on.
So wait, you think it was a mom and pop sex trafficking operation in Florida?
You're inventing a bunch of things I've never said.
I'm asking you questions that you can answer, but you're not answering them.
You made a claim. You said Trump needs to prosecute the DOJ needs to, and I said, okay,
well,
who
Trump
do you want?
Is the DOJ?
Who do you want? Well, at least they're distinct, but
no,
yes, they work for the administration.
That's how Don Lemon got arrested on Friday. I'm sure it's because they're very separate.
You're trying to avoid the question. You said Trump needs to prosecute more people. I said, great. Who do you want to prosecute? And you said, Herder, I don't know.
That's not at all what I said.
Right. So, okay. Let me process what I've just watched here, because this is absolutely maddening. So we've got this chap making an excellent point about how there's allegedly this network of powerful individuals who've seemingly operated with impunity. And then you've got this other fellow desperately trying to deflect. Who would you prosecute? Name names. As if the entire point isn't that the system has been designed to protect these people from ever being named in the first place. And hold on, did I hear that correctly? Trump is mentioned more times in the Epstein files than Harry Potter is in the Harry Potter series. I mean, that's quite the comparison, isn't it? And yet this man reportedly stands in the Oval Office claiming he doesn't know anything about Jeffrey Epstein. The same Jeffrey Epstein whose parties he allegedly attended. The same Epstein he's been photographed with countless times throughout the 90s. The audacity, the absolute audacity. And here's what really gets me, the deflection to, well, Biden didn't prosecute either. Mate, you can't simultaneously claim Trump's the law and order president whilst excusing his administration's apparent failure to pursue justice for victims. Pick a lane. The bootlicking is genuinely exhausting to watch. 1,000 children reportedly trafficked, and we're playing semantic games about prosecution technicalities. This is precisely how accountability dies, buried under procedural nonsense whilst powerful people walk free.
Who should he prosecute?
I said, how is it possible?
You're avoiding the question.
I don't have a specific name because guess what? I'm not in the Epstein
Let him prosecute Bill Clinton.
Yeah,
start there.
Prosecute Bill Clinton.
Okay, on what grounds?
I
don't like Bill Clinton.
Whatever the FBI has in those files is.
Have you looked at the files? Have any of you actually looked at?
I have looked at the files.
Okay, on what grounds are you going to prosecute Bill Clinton?
I didn't say prosecute Bill Clinton, but
on what grounds are you going to prosecute Bill Clinton?
On what he tells Congress when he comes in to testify in public hearing.
You're going to prosecute him for something he hasn't done yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Who would you prosecute?
Look, again, I want to find the co-conspirators who traffic these kids.
Okay.
So if you're asking me for their names, and by the way,
I am asking you for their names, and you won't give them.
I don't know the names of most of the perpetrators because the DOJ blocked them out.
Right.
They had no problem releasing the private information of the victims of Epstein's crimes, but they had a huge problem releasing the names of people who preyed on little girls and little boys.
That's not true.
That is true.
I could give you plenty of names. Adriana Ross, Nadia Marcinko, Sarah Kellen. These are the closest associates around Jeffrey Epstein who we have firm facts, because I actually have gone through a lot of the files. We know that they were trafficking the girls.
Sure.
Those are the ones you'd want to prosecute. All women, by the way, weirdly enough. You know why we can't prosecute them? Because they're protected by a 2008 non-prosecution aggress long before Trump entered the scene.
Which was by a Republican that Donald Trump put in his cabinet.
Who else do you want to prosecute?
The labor secretary.
Who else do you want to prosecute? Do you want to prosecute Les Wexner? On what grounds? Sure, maybe on what grounds? Do you want to prosecute Alan Dershowitz? On what? A claim that was made and then retracted by the claimant? You want to prosecute Bill Clinton? On what? You say he went after a 14, 13-year-old girl? That case was already brought to court multiple times. A California judge dismissed it, and then the claimant dropped it twice. So who are you going to prosecute? You can't give me anyone. You're saying Trump's a bad guy for not prosecuting anyone. I say, great. Who do you want to prosecute? You said, I have no idea.
What I am trying to say is that there is a powerful group of people in this country who think they can get away with anything. And right now they're getting away with abusing little boys and little girls. And they're getting away with it because multiple presidential administrations, Democrat and Republican, sir, have refused to take these allegations seriously and investigate it. And right now, if you go look at the documents that they dropped on Friday, the names of the perpetrators of the crimes are blacked out.
That's not true.
It is true.
I named a bunch of the associates. I just named...
No, I'm talking about the people who are abusing little girls.
Yeah, me too.
No, you're talking
four
about the people who trafficked. You had their names. I'll give you credit for that.
I'll
Congratulations.
go further than that.
But, like,
People who've had claims made against them. Bill Clinton, Alan Dershowitz.
They are blocking out the names, and they've
there's no
never
proof of it.
seriously investigated the claims that have made. And again, it's not just Donald Trump's fault.
In the files, you can see the investigations. You just cited it because you were talking about the claims made by the women to the FBI.
Yeah.
So you yourself admit they've been
So you don't believe the
investigated.
claims, is what you're saying.
Well, in some cases, the claims not only were deemed not credible by the FBI across multiple administrations, but in some cases, the claims were retracted by the accusers themselves, as in the case of Alan Dershowitz.
But again, we know that this is a real thing because Ghislaine Maxwell.
You're not giving me any names.
What was Ghislaine Maxwell found guilty of?
She was of conspiracy to traffic minors.
Yes. Yes, she's also a registered sex offender. So why is she in a minimum security prison after Todd Blanche
Isn't
put
that
her
part
there?
of the problem that we don't know?
Yeah.
We do not have a lot of these redacted names, and so we don't know. And that's part of the big problem here.
Maybe. We have a lot of the names without redactions, and you guys haven't given me an argument as to why we would go after them, and you haven't named anyone else to go after. Okay.
It isn't about me wanting to go after them. It's that the
I thought it
DOJ
was.
has
I thought
never
it was your
taken this
topic.
seriously.
Okay, question?
Michael, I tend to agree with Mike too this time that the whole situation is FUBAR.
And hold on. Did you just hear that? Did you catch what just happened there? Because I need someone to tell me I'm not losing my mind. So our friend here says, prosecute Bill Clinton, start there, right? And then when pressed on what grounds, he goes, whatever the FBI has in those files. Whatever the FBI has, that's your legal strategy. Whatever? I could not make this up if I tried. And then the defense becomes, well, we can't prosecute these people because of a 2008 non-prosecution agreement. Right, an agreement brokered by Alexander Acosta. You know, the bloke Trump made his Labour secretary, the same man who gave Epstein that sweetheart deal in the first place. And we're meant to just gloss over that connection. Look, I'll give credit where it's due. The point about wanting more transparency is valid. Absolutely. But the intellectual gymnastics required to simultaneously demand prosecutions whilst defending the administration that employed the architect of the original cover-up. It's remarkable, truly. And the bit about the names being redacted, yes, that's precisely the problem. But who's in charge of the DOJ right now? Who has the power to declassify, to push for genuine accountability? The deflection to both sides failed is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Because when you control the Justice Department and your response to widespread trafficking allegations is essentially nothing to see here, that's not bipartisan failure. That's a choice.
With regard to the Epstein issue,
Yes, sir.
and your position, Michael Knowles, that we know all we're going to know, I'd like to know how you suggest we react when, as Mike too said, the situation is so FUBAR, not accomplishing anything other than distractions. What do we do with this situation? What do you recommend or prescribe?
Yes. Okay. And to articulate my view, which you alluded to, my point, which I've said from the beginning, I've been vindicated every step of the way, is what
Just like Donald Trump, total vindication.
I know, I have been totally vindicated on this. There are two possibilities with Epstein. Either Epstein is what the mainstream narrative tells us, just like a kind of eccentric rich guy who was a sex freak and had no connections to intelligence or no associates, or just forget about it, move along. Either that's true, or Epstein was something else. He was a little bit more than that. In either case, we are not going to get any more information. If it were the first mainstream narrative, which I don't believe, then we obviously already know everything we're going to know. If it's the second narrative, which is that this guy was mobbed up with like everybody, with intelligence services all over the place, if people cite the CIA, the United States, or Israel, or Russia has come out in this tranche of documents, or the Arabs, or MI6, or the list goes on and on and on. It seems like this guy was mobbed up with everybody. And so we're probably not going to get much more information on it. In terms of the radical transparency we have millions and millions of documents that were released by Donald Trump. When you look at any of the potential prosecutions, no one has been able to bring one because there is not sufficient evidence. And in the cases where there are, and those 4 people that I mentioned, they're already protected by a non-prosecution agreement. So I'm not telling you this to say it's like a great thing and how wonderful it is that all but 2 people got off the hook in the Epstein scandal, but I'm mentioning that because that's reality. And sometimes people don't want to hear the truth, but it's a fact. And when people go on and tell you that Trump didn't prosecute Epstein's associates, one, that's a lie. And when they tell you that this is Trump's fault or something like that, it's totally ridiculous. If there were something for the White House to do, I promise you they would do it. This is politically radioactive for them. The problem is there is nothing to be done. And the idea that there would be, after well over a decade of this, 15 years of this, some smoking gun document that has survived all of the intelligence agencies up until now, that's finally going to blow the lid on it. If you believe that, I got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you.
So I'd like to rebut that, if that's all right, because let's talk about how we got here. Like you say, Donald Trump released these files as if there hasn't been like a year of a cover-up in place by Pam Bondi and the DOJ at, I believe, Donald Trump's orders.
What cover-up? Trump's the one who arrested Epstein and Maxwell.
Let's remember, that was in the first term. We're talking about
That's what I'm saying.
They violated the law with
have-
how long it took for them to release the last tranche of files.
Well, let's
only been in office
hold on.
for a
Before
year.
we get there, though.
Michael's been consistent on his show about his position, but my question for you, Michael, a little deeper was, how do either we as normies, as a public, respond to the situation at this point, or how should the administration change anything, handle anything differently? Because the whole thing is just a botch job from end to end.
I agree with you, and I want to talk about why it's a botch job, because nobody should forget that right after the 4th of July on a Sunday night, the DOJ announced they were done with the Epstein investigation. After throughout the entire Trump campaign, they were promised to release every document to prosecute every single person that they could. They said there was nothing, that there was no files. And it took
they said no client list.
they said there was nothing. There's
they
no
never
list.
said there was
there's
no
no
files.
nothing.
They're
We're
obviously
done.
files.
We've reviewed everything. We've got nothing for you. And after, by the way, embarrassing the shit out of libs of TikTok and other influencers by making them wave binders. And I thought that was super damn embarrassing.
I wasn't at that meeting.
Can we
I
agree
got
that wasn't embarrassing?
Yeah, can we agree that was embarrassing?
I'm glad I didn't get a binder.
Yeah,
That's good enough.
You have better sense than libs of TikTok.
Right, okay. We know all we're going to know. That's the line. That's apparently what we're meant to accept now. And look, I have to be honest. Part of me respects the audacity of just saying that out loud, on camera, with a straight face. Because what he's essentially arguing is either Epstein was a lone pervert, or he was connected to every intelligence agency on the planet. And in both scenarios, you peasants should just move along. That's genuinely the argument being made here. And did you catch the pivot? The moment someone pushes back, the moment there's actual resistance, suddenly it becomes, well, Trump arrested Epstein and Maxwell. Unlike any what? Because last I checked, this administration spent months fighting the release of these files. They announced on a Sunday night, after a holiday weekend, that they were done investigating. That's not transparency, that's a Friday news dump with extra steps. The gentleman asking the question had it right. The appropriate response is anger, because we're being told simultaneously that everything's been released and that there are legal reasons things can't be released. Which is it? You cannot have it both ways. And this notion that because they released millions of documents, the job's done. Documents with redactions. Documents with names blacked out. That's not disclosure. That's theatre. It's the appearance of transparency whilst actively obstructing it. The cover-up isn't hidden anymore. It's just rebranded as completion.
But look,
she didn't know what she was getting into.
It took Democrats and Republicans coming together with a discharge petition to get that bill to move forward and to create the political conditions for Donald Trump to be so scared of the public's reaction that he was forced to sign it. And I want to remind people that according to Thomas Massie, who's a Republican, conservative member of Congress, he was threatened by the FBI to have his staff brought up on fraud charges if they didn't stop pushing the Epstein files. So this administration is pushing hard to make sure you never see it. And my reaction to the gentleman, he's no longer there, who asked his question is, your reaction should be anger. You should be pissed off that the federal government is lying to you like this. That's it.
And what should they do about it?
Well, you can't vote him out of the House because he's
All
president of the United States.
The same thing Trump did, I guess.
You should
Actually,
keep,
Trump's
you
done
should,
a lot
you
more
should
'cause he
keep,
released the
Trump
files.
hasn't done anything. Come on.
Other than arrest Epstein, arrest Maxwell, unlike any Democrats, and then release 3.5 million files. Other than that, he's done nothing.
I know
Okay.
you got to protect your daddy, but this is
No,
embarrassing.
I have to
like,
state
come on.
facts truthfully in circumstance. Next question.
Hi, Michael. This question is for you. So Trump has said that he thinks it's time to move on from the Epstein files. Do you agree with him? And what should we do about it?
Well, it's time to move on from the Epstein files in the sense that he released the files. I mean, the remaining files, there are like many legal reasons why they can't be released, some of which is that a lot of it's child. But he's released 3.5 million of them. We know a lot, and there are redactions for all sorts of reasons. But I agree it's time to move on from the files because the files part has been accomplished. What I want to know with Epstein is a consistent question, which is, I don't need to know all the lurid details. I would like for there to be justice for the victims, if there can be. I want to separate the credible claims from the false claims, some of which have been proven. But what I want to know is, who was Epstein working for and for what purpose? And even that is not a simple answer. Some people want to say he was, like a super spy for Mossad or for the CIA or for, now the story is the Polish prime minister saying he was a super spy for Russia and for this group and that group. And the reality is there's evidence to back up like all of that. And it's very unclear what his actual mission was. Furthermore, the claim that he was a spy makes people think that he was James Bond, training at Langley or something, on a mission to. But I don't think that's really what he did. I think he was a dodgy influence peddler who collected connections and greased the wheels of government and business and politics around the world. And so I want to know what that is. I want to know the machinery of the corruption more than I want to know the lurid details. That needs to be pursued. That we need to continue to follow. However, I'm open to suggestions on how to do it because he obviously ran a very sophisticated operation and no one's been able to come up with answers yet.
Can I jump in here with 2 points? The first is they have not released all of the Epstein files. That is something they continue to lie about. And what
should they release all the child?
What if it's actual
not necessarily to the public,
not to the public,
Congress.
maybe
then
to members of Congress. But look, I don't buy their claim that there's just a bunch of child there. It feels like
you don't think there's child in the Epstein
I'm sure
files?
that there is, but I think the idea that the remaining files is all child is
not saying it's all.
Given the number of times that they've lied, we should take nothing that this administration says at face value. The second thing is, and on that first point, they still haven't released the names of everyone who's been accused of violence against little boys and little girls in the Epstein files. They are concealing those names, and the question is why. Now, number two.
Again,
wait. I let you talk. Can you let me finish, please?
Sure.
Thank you. And you can tell me why I'm wrong in a second.
Happily.
All right? But the second point I want to make is you've brought up multiple times, is he a Mossad agent? What's this? He's a super spy? What is he? And that's a very clever thing that MAGA-oriented influencers are doing right now because they want you focused on that so that you can be like, ooh, was he working for Putin? Ooh, was he working for Benjamin Netanyahu? Instead of going, how is it possible that nobody is being prosecuted for these crimes? How is it possible that they're concealing these names and this information?
I just explained that to you.
Look over here. Don't look over here. Come on.
I just explained it to you because you can't name the crimes or the people to prosecute.
I can't because I don't have all the information.
There you go. Okay,
they're concealing the
next
names.
Question?
They're concealing the names. How am I supposed to tell you the names of the things that are concealed?
And there it is. That's the whole thing laid bare, isn't it? You've got one bloke sat there desperately trying to get answers, actual names, actual accountability, and the other side just deflects, pivots, throws up smoke screens about spy agencies and international intrigue, like we're meant to forget that children were harmed. Thousands of them. And the best defense they can muster is, well, you can't name anyone specific, mate. That's precisely the problem. The names are redacted. The files are incomplete. You cannot simultaneously withhold information and then criticize people for not having it. And look, I'll be honest with you lot. This isn't about left versus right anymore. It never really was. It's about power protecting power. It's about a system so thoroughly corrupted that the people at the top can abuse children, and walk away because prosecuting them would expose too many uncomfortable truths. But here's what I need you to take away from this. The pressure works. That discharge petition? That happened because ordinary people refused to shut up. The files that did get released, that happened because the public demanded it. So no, we don't stop. We don't move on because some talking head tells us it's time. Keep asking questions. Keep demanding transparency. Keep making noise until every single name is released and every victim gets their day. Because if we go quiet now, they win. And I absolutely refuse to let that happen. Stay loud, yeah? I'll see you in the next one.